Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Microsoft Surface Pro 2. Now, the fastest way to identify if you have yourself a Surface Pro 2 or a Surface Pro 1, because they look very similar indeed, is actually to lift the kickstand. The kickstand on the Surface Pro 1 has one position, that is it. However, on the Surface Pro 2, it has the 22 and 55 degree hinge designed for all sorts of different configurations on laps and things like that. So if you've got two positions, you know for sure you have a Surface Pro 2. Now, beyond the kickstand, there were a few other tasteful upgrades, but here's what really didn't change. So I actually have the Surface Pro 1 here still. You will notice that the charging port is identical. You will also notice that the display port is also the same. Camera on the back is the same. The display is the same. However, the Surface Pro 2 has been, at least from the information that I have been able to glean, have a much greater color accuracy. You've got your USB port, volume rocker, and then your headphone jack. Now that we've got the comparisons out of the way, let's go back and talk about some of the upgrades that were made. When it first came out, you had the i5 4200U, and then a little bit later they released it with the i5 4300U. So that means that you got a better processor, it was a little bit more power efficient, so even though you've got the same size battery, you are going to get a little bit more battery life. In terms of storage, you had two options at the low end with the 64 and 128 gigabyte SSD, which this is the 128 gigabyte version. And if you had one of those two, that means you had 4 gigs of RAM. If you had 256 or 512, then that means that you had 8 gigs of RAM. Regardless, they all came with the same battery at 42 watt hours. So when they released this, they released it along with a series of new accessories, including, but not limited to, a new type keyboard cover and a battery keyboard cover. So the keyboard cover is backwards compatible with the Surface Pro 1, which I've got here. Pretty standard fare. It also came optional with a battery cover. Now the battery cover is considerably thicker. However, it does give you an additional 30 watt hours, so not quite double the battery capacity. So if you knew that you were going to be out and about and you needed that extra battery power, then this was a no-brainer. So I have the Surface Pro 1 on the right-hand side, and I have the Surface Pro 2 on the left. Let's go ahead and do a quick boot test to see which one can boot into Windows faster. So 3, 2, 1. So if you're curious, the reason why that screen was red, it had to do with the bootloader being unlocked. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just a quirk. So as you can see, they boot pretty much at the same time, with the exception of that bootloader taking a little bit longer. I think you can say that they're very comparable indeed. Capacitive style touch pens work on both of these displays without any issues. It's worth noting, with battery saver enabled, with the approximately 70 watt hours that you get, you are looking at boasting a battery life of nearly 8.5 hours. So if you need something with lots and lots of battery, with tablet portability, then this combination is incredibly attractive. The nice thing about these devices is that they are running a mid-grade i5. You have tons and tons of battery life, you have a good screen, decent keyboard, pen compatibility. There's an awful lot to like, and right now on eBay, these devices aren't really going for much more mid-tier specifications for under 300 Canadian dollars. If you're looking for a good low-cost investment but high-quality device, then this would certainly be one worth checking out. This is up on my radar of things that I think are, for the average person, pretty safe to recommend, right next to pretty much the entire line of ThinkPads. If you have any questions about this particular unit, or the Surface line in general, feel free to leave them down in the comments below, because I am going to be continuing my quest to feature Surface devices on this channel as they become available to me. Like I said, this one is a pretty neat piece of kit, especially at the used market price that they currently command at the end of 2019. I think that's a pretty safe recommendation. If you would like to see more of this kind of content, I'm going to leave the big 4 here at the bottom. Please like the video, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so when I feature the Surface Pro 3 on the channel, you'll be the first person to be notified about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.